G'day folks, welcome back to Thommo's Tin Shed on another episode of the Jack Nelson Ballot. You can see it's finally there, and that's exactly what we're working on this time around. On this episode I'm going to show you how we took a flat piece of steel and recreated a nose radiator cowl from the ground up. We were never able to identify what Jack Nelson bolted on the front of his car, so we were left no choice. Fabrication was the only way it was going to happen, and we're going to show you step by step how we got from a flat sheet of steel to this right there. So stick around, it's going to be a good one. Don't forget, hit like, subscribe, hit the notifications, stick around, and all the way to the Red Dust Revival. We're going to give you week for week, and we're going to give you all the latest information on what we're doing with the build process and get you to the very end. In fact, we're going to take you with us when we get there. So, without further ado, let's get on with this episode. G'day folks, I'm Thommo. Hey, you're there, I'm here, I'm doing stuff, you're watching, perfect. G'day folks, welcome back to another day at Thommo's Tin Shed, and we are back on the Nelson Ballot. We are going to create this bespoke radiator grill shell. I think that's what they call them. I used to call it a radiator cowl, nose cone, whatever you want, but where appears to be the terminology is radiator grill shell, so that's what we'll refer to it as today. Now we have to make it like the Nelson one. Now here's the weird thing, and this is the part that I've been unable to identify exactly what grill shell it used. Now this car that Jack originally built was built in 1929 to my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge. The chassis he used was a 1928, so the chassis that he actually salvaged from another car was only 1 year old, so near perfectly new. And when he replaced the below 4-cylinder motor and put the side of V8 in it, he obviously needed more radiator capacity, so he obviously decided to retrofit a bigger radiator. Now, the radiator grill shell that he's used would have been available here in Western Australia in 1929, but to the life of me I've been unable to identify exactly what car it came off, and it certainly isn't a Below. The original Below radiator nose cone was all one. The actual top header tank was actually the polished fancy bit, so we definitely know it's not Below. It's definitely not Chevrolet, because Chevrolet's too high. So because we can't actually identify it, and then that means we can't go and find one, we're going to make one from the ground up. We're going to make one from scratch, and that's what the first part of this episode is going to be about. We're going to create a couple of brackets, some template material, and we're going to build this framework from the ground up. First we've got to set in some brackets which will go into these existing pieces in here. Now I did say in an early episode that I was going to recover and put these weld studs back in, but the reality is you're not going to see them, and these are two perfectly good 3/8 holes to use as a mounting platform. So I'm actually going to use those as the mounting for the nose cone. Use what you got, right? So I'm going to quickly knock up a bracket, then we're going to template it. Now his original car didn't actually meet the bonnet. The below bonnet and the radiator that he put on there didn't really match. It was a bit awful actually. But my OCD's kicking in hard, so I want to make sure that our radiator support grill will actually flush up and fit with the radiator and the bonnet elements. So we're going to start by matching the bonnet profile, getting the side profile right, the angle and the fall. And once we've got to that point there, we'll start thinking about what we can do at the front. Now there's a bit of a technique in the front, but we'll get that to later. For now, let's just get these basic attachment in place, and we'll pick it up from there. Okay folks, we've got a picture of Jack's car. We're just trying to work out how to get this radiator shape again. So we can see this is the radiator. I've just put some fine lines around it. It's the back edge, the lead edge, and obviously goes over the top of the bonnet. So this back edge here is the radius of our bonnet. We already know that exists. We know this distance here because that's the chassis rail. It sits right on top of the chassis rail. Bracket's already been made for that. But what we need to do is get this fall ratio, trying to work out how far to come forward and how far this is. So we know this is going to be somewhere around about 4 or 5 inches. When you just do a quick scale check, the base of the radiator cowl is double that of the top. So we're going to use that 2-to-1 ratio. We know this length, we know there, and all we're going to do is just create that and have it follow through to the center. We're going to do it in 2 pieces. I have to put a joint in the middle, but there's just no way I can put the whole length through the English wheel to do this top radius. So That's what we're going to do next. We're going to create a template, and we'll make that probably 4 inches, and we'll make this 8 inches, and we'll try that as a template and just see how it matches up. Now, because this radiator shroud tapers, if you just cut that and put it straight edge, you'd have this like flat. So what we use, guys, is to get that sort of natural progression. You can hear the tractor going in the background. Old mate next door thinks he's going to be a tractor driver. What we do is we take a tape line from the start of the radius, and we just naturally follow down to this corner. And what that will do is it will give us that progression we need. So just a bit of pinstripe tape. And what we do is we literally, from the start of our radius, line of tape, so a straight line, and then from there we just naturally what that gives us is a natural progression. So when you look at the side profile, it will be tapered exactly where you want it, but as it progresses over into the flat section, right through the center, it'll be parallel. Won't just come to a peak. Little trick. Pinstripe tape. Good eye. That's a pretty decent way of getting started. And the other thing is, of course, it gives you an opportunity to see what the profile looks like. So that's not bad. We'll run with that. I'll mark it up, cut the template out, see how we go. So with a little bit of filling around, what we've done is we've got the final template piece in place. And all of our transitions spot on. I'm going to transfer that now onto steel. I'm going to do a little bit of English wheeling through here to pick up that radius shape that we know. We're going to get it in place. Clicos across the bottom just to hold that. Now the other thing you can see down here, I'll put this little line through here. Once we've done the bead relief through here, I'm actually going to hand fold that over so it's a double edge on the bottom, just a finishing edge. I'll show you how to do that on the bench, but that's, in case you're wondering, that's what that is. That's just going to get folded underneath. So on the steel, on the wheel, we'll get this thing back in, and we'll get a bit of a transition. If this works, we'll do the opposite to the other side. We'll just literally use this template, flip it, reverse it, and do the other side so both sides are symmetrical and true to each other. So we're moving along in the day. We've got a fair bit done for this side of things. The complicated bit will start tomorrow, but we needed to get this backbone of it on. So you'll see over the back there, right about there, that's the support bracket that bolts the radiator support cowl onto the framework, and then we've created the side combings or the side panels. Now I've got the other one pressed up and made as well. I just haven't put it in, but this is just to give you an idea where we're at. So we've had the English wheel to get the radius to match. We've done, you can see maybe just down through here, we've done a step relief, three-quarter inch step relief, and that is so that the bonnet can sort of flush up and finish off, which is something that the Jack Nelson didn't do. We're going to do it. Dressed out the radius, just finish out. Also on the bottom of this edge through here, I've hand planished half-inch fold on it, so she's got a safety edge or a double edge on that, just to give it a bit of support. A bit wobbly there, but it's a race car, no one cares. So I'm going to get the two side panels clecoed set in place, and we're going to weld the top seam. So in the middle, through the middle in there, we're actually going to weld those two together. So we'll get that to the point where the outer cowl and it's all sitting within the bonnet space. That will be secured and fitted. Then we'll be doing a template for the front panel, or the infill panel, whatever you want to call it. And that's going to use different techniques, so that's going to be pretty good. For the meantime, the rest of this day, I think I'll just finish off this, get it all clecoed in. I'll show a little bit of image of that when it's done. And then we'll hit the ground running tomorrow with the front panel. We're going to do a couple of techniques that you can do in your own shed. We don't have the fancy bead roller for doing the radiuses on it, so we're going to have to hand planish the rounds where this goes. So I'll show you how we get through that one there as well. But I've created a complication for myself, so I have to solve that one as well, but we'll do that on the run together. So in the meantime, that's where we're up to. We'll keep on trucking. G'day folks, now it's a bloody cold one in the shed tonight, and I don't normally work in the cold nights out here because, well, it's bloody freezing. But I got to this point, and you can see we've got the radiator grill shell sitting there all tacked up in place, matches the bonnet beautifully, everything's where it should be. But I took a step back at the end of the day and had a look at it, and it just didn't look right. There was something about it just wasn't ringing my bell. And I went and had a look at the photos again of every front aspect photo I could find of Jack Nelson's Ballot, and there's something about this version that I've done right here that just didn't sit right. It wasn't quite where it needed to be, and I realised that although Jack had channeled down the bodywork, as you can see, we're going to have the bodywork come through here. From the engine wall to the front, I realised after having a relook and assessing the situation, it appears that the bonnet and nose cone taper in more to the inside rail of chassis, whereas I've just made the assumption that everything's flush on the outside of the rail. And I've done that right up to this point, realising that it doesn't quite look right. It looks too broad, looks too flat, looks too big, doesn't quite have that streamlined look that Jack's car's got. So I could leave it and just put a grill section through here tomorrow morning and say, hey, look, you know, that's close enough, that's good enough. But there's something inside of me that says that's not good enough and it just won't be right. So this evening I'm going to unpick the bonnet. Luckily I've only tacked the top section of the bonnet. May have welded this through, but up there's only a handful of tacks, so I can trim them out, get them separated. I'm going to unpick this nose cone section. Although we've welded up through here and those brackets are there all done, we're just going to have to redo that. To get it right, I need to bring the nose cone section, or this end section, about 2 inches either side a centre, just to bring that, taper that in a bit. And then we can still utilise all this, but we're going to have to cut through, take a section out of that. We're going to section it this way. We're going to put a minor pie cut in the bonnet and bring that narrowness into it, and we can re-cleco and reset that bonnet, re-weld that, and get everything to the inside of the chassis rail. So we want it all to be on the inside. When we do that, I'm guaranteed sure, feel it in my bones, folks, that that's going to be the better option and the better outcome, and what we're going to have is a car that's better presented for the Lake Berkeley. We want to represent the car to the best of our ability, and shortcuts don't really come into it. Do I have time to do this? Probably not, but if you're going to do something, then do it right. That's the whole point. You can half-ass things around if you want to, but in the end of the day, let's just do the right job the first time and get it spot on. So I'm going to jump onto this now, and I'll probably just put in a time lapse. I'll just capture a little bit of what we're doing here, unpicking it, pulling it all apart. And then when we get down here in the morning with a nice hot cup of coffee, we're going to belt into this, reset the clock on that one, and then we're going to finish this radiator support cowl and get it looking more and more like Jack Ballot's Nelson. So in the meantime, let me go put my warm jumper on because it's bloody cold, and get into it. Yeah, it's raining here in WA on the tin shed. Thommo's tin shed's going to be a bit noisy, but bear with it, it's all good. Now, after 3 or 4 hours of rework, we've got it exactly where we want it to be. Probably the same time, 5 o'clock yesterday, but now we've got a car that is proportionally correct to the Jack Nelson build. And coming down last night and unpicking everything and getting it ready, it means I was able to hit the ground running, so I set myself up for success absolutely first minute out the gate. But what we've got now is we've got the front end and all the panelling tapered 2 inches aside to inside the chassis rail now, which looks good, looks really good. And it looks more correct to the images that I've got. So well worth the time to redo it, and obviously this was it. Now the bonnet's not fully welded yet, that's just clecoed in case we have to do some minor adjustments on the fly. The cowl is set and gets secured. I've created new brackets for that, which you'll see, I think you may have already seen in a little bit of a thing. So what we're going to do now is jump in and do this. So I'm just going to set up the template and we'll pick it up from there. Okay, so the reset is done. We're ready to go. We're going to start working on this front panel through here. Everything's back where it should have been at 5 o'clock yesterday. As you can see, we've put some taper in the car now. So from the dash panel cowl, she slides away through in here and she's now inside the chassis rail of about 2 3/4, nearly 3 inches. She now looks thinner in profile, and that's what we're doing. And more importantly, she looks a little bit more like Jack Nelson's car. So now that we've got redressed all this, this is ready to go. We're going to now do the front fin panel. And we're going to use an old method using form ply, which is in this case 17mm thick, and they use it for doing concrete facing the walls and stuff like that. It's a nice, hard, heavy, compressed unit. You can hammer the buggery out of it and it doesn't really hurt it. So we're going to hand form the 3/4 radius that needs to be here to get that nice round shape. I don't have the bead roller in my set to do that radius, so we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. But hey, I'll show you how to do it, and you can probably do this at home. You know, if you want to get any of those sort of fancy shapes and all you've got is a couple of planks of wood, you can do it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to set the template, then I'm going to take the template, mark it on my form ply, and that will become the buck form or the hammer form for the actual shape, because all we're doing is radiusing the outer rails. However, I've added a bit of a complication because on the inside of this radiator section, I want to put a step relief. I want to make it look like a factory pressing. If I just went, I'll cut the hole, put some mesh in it, I wouldn't have to do this process that I'm about to do. So you could just generally, if you're only going to put an outer radius around the periphery, you would just take your form ply, you would create the nice round on the outside, and you put your material between the 2 planks, hammer the edges, no worries. But because I'm going to put a step relief, and you'll see as we go, if I do the usual clamping process, I'm going to crush and damage all the step relief I've just created. So I have to use a bit of 3mm MDF as a packer material for the highs and lows. Easier to show you than try to explain it. We'll get the first piece done, we'll make a template for this, we'll cut that out of the form ply, and I'll explain when we get to there. But we're also going to do a piece in 3mm MDF, exactly the same, and then I'll show you what we're going to do from there. I know you guys like me Thommo's tech tips. Here's one for you. Now you already know about the pot magnets. If you've watched the previous episodes, you'll know that I use pot magnets to hold things in place. But as you know, we've got this pot magnet to the front edge of that radiator cowl. Now that material is 16 gauge material, but as you can see, the pot magnets will still stick to it. Means that if you're working in the shop on your own and you don't have that extra pair of hands, you can literally just use the pot magnets, get it all exactly there, grab your pen and you start marking. They're just really handy, really handy. So I can't help but to express that if you're doing any metal work and then you're using straw board to do templating, you've got to get yourself some of these magnets and put them in your stock, because they are absolutely invaluable. I'll be stuck without them. Just a tech tip from Thommo. Make sure if you're working with straw board templates, get yourself some pot magnets, because they're an absolute blessing. They really do make your job so much easier. just cut this out to template. This is what we call the baseboard. Refer to the baseboard. Baseboard. This is the underside, but this is also going to be the forming buck. We're going to radius this off for like a 3/4 round, all the way around, and that will be the form we need. But so that you can clamp the material in place and it doesn't move and lift and drift, you need what we call a compression board, which is what we're about to cut out here. Now that compression board needs to be 3/4 inch less in size. So these two boards will compression. You'll have your material in between the two boards and you'll bolt the two boards together. That top one allows clearance for you to hammer and form the side, because this is all going to get radiused off with a nice 3/4 round. And this board will pin that down and hold everything in place while you do your forming. Baseboard, compression board. I'll get this cut out and we'll take it from there, but there's a little step we've got to do before we get to hammer forming. But let's get this board cut out first and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, so we've got the baseboard all prepped up, that's all nice and clean. We've now got the compression board. Now this board gets to go on top of that, and like I was saying, you end up with about a 3/4 inch gap. Now we have to radius this off and make it all nice and round, and this clamps the material down and we hammer that over. But because I want pretty, I've had to make this one too. Now this is the packet board. Now this is just a bit of 3mm MDF, nothing too crazy. But before I do all the round shaping, I'm going to do some bead rolling. The inside I want it to look nice and factory. But if I do the bead rolling and then use the compression board, I'm going to flatten out all my bead rolling, which is not okay. So what I'm going to do is, when I get the section done, I'm going to cut this packer board so that it has an outside and an inside protecting that bit of bead rolling, and then I can clamp them down and do all the finishing work. I'm not going to go through too much on that, it's just a little bit of woodwork to do, but that's all the boards prepped, ready to go. Now I've got to cut the material and we'll clamp it in and I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, so we're at that point where now we're ready to assemble the hammering form. So this is the baseboard, you've seen it come together, the MDF, which is allowing the bead relief to sink down into that. What happens is when that sinks down there, the compression board is going to pin the periphery of the metal without damaging the set relief. And we're going to put a sandwich board or that packer board I referred to on the inside, and that will keep that thing pinned and exactly held in place, so that when we're doing the roll section, none of this will move. You want to pin that down absolutely 100%. So I'm just going to show you how it all goes together. Pretty straightforward, but if you've never seen this done, this is how we do. So we've got the baseboard in place, we've got a couple of key bolts. We've got to bolt all the periphery, but for now we only use 4 just so we can locate the corners. And we start with our sheet of metal. So as you can see, This is the radiator panel here. We've done all the bead relief through here. We've got our set holes ready to go. So that step down into there has to be protected because we're actually going to be hammering this section through here. So if we just didn't do anything with it, that would just get crushed flat and it wouldn't look ordinary. So what we do is we just line this up here. Line this up quickly. Just like that. Set bolts. Can't get it wrong. We know it's exactly where we want it to be. Now you notice that this thing's got a bit of pop. This is part of what happens when you do stretching and shrinking of metals. It has to go somewhere. So as you're going through this process of bead rolling, we're actually putting stretch and extension into the material, and it has to go somewhere, which is where you get these little pops. But the compression process flattens all up, pins it in place, and then the hammering process will locate all that. This will become a very rigid, very stable piece of material by the time we finish. So we're not worried about that little movement of pop. So we need the packer. This is that one I was referring to. I'm going to drop that in there. It goes through here. Now that is protecting the inside, and then the compression plate comes down on that, forces that onto the inside. The outer one is holding it up, so this bead roll section is now being protected through the hammering process, which is the whole point of the packer material. If you didn't put a fancy step in that, you could just literally put the metal, the packer, bolt it down, start hammering away, you know. So, like I said, I created a bit of a monster for myself, but as you can see, with a little bit of forethought, you can actually do that sort of extra material work and still not have a problem when you go. And of course now we've got the old compression board, which we've seen a million times. We're going to get that on there. Where is it? There it is. Out there somewhere. Jiggle, jiggle. And as you can see, my bolts are too short. I'm going to have to go get some longer bolts, but that's okay. That's in the car. I can do that. But you are now going to literally bolt these as hard and as snug and as tight as you can. You're going to clamp these things down using all of these points, including the center section. And what that does, that will pin the whole periphery of that material. Absolutely cannot go anywhere at all. And then we're going to start in the morning by going this way. This section through here, that's going to get a 90 fold. That's the bottom of the radiator. That's just purely set at a 90. And then we will start rolling this around and shrinking that one into place. So we've got to bend it all and roll from it. There's a few little tricks of the trade I'll show you while we'll do that. But that's going to happen tomorrow. It's getting a bit late in the day to be banging away and wailing away on the hammer. So I'm going to set all the bolts in place, get this ready for the first thing in the morning, and then we'll hit the ground running. Everything will be bolted in. We'll start bending some metal first thing. So it must be beer o'clock. I think so. I'm going to go crack a nice cold one, sit down, chill out for a couple of minutes, and we'll get back onto this first thing in the morning and get this nose cone finished. Alright, time to find some bolts. Okay, first order of business is to do the base 90-degree fold. Now, this is a good one to show rough technique. I always start my bend techniques with a dead blow hammer. Those who don't know what a dead blow hammer is, this is a nylon hammer and it's filled with lead shot. Now the idea of this hammer is when you make impact with the material, it doesn't rebound. That's the theory. It goes against Newton's third law. Every action has an equal opposite reaction, less acted upon. But this is designed to fast track your material. You want to get most of the material moved. This is what you do it. Low impact, low damage to the material as you're forming. And then we finish off with a good old-fashioned planishing hammer. Now, a cheap hammer is still a good hammer as long as you look after it. Key to this one here has always been genuine hickory handle. Make sure you got the hickory handle. It's just really nice thing to feel. It's got a good handle feel about it, but more importantly, it's the longevity. The hickory really does handle the handing and pounding. So this is finishing, and this is starting the game. So we're going to bend this over. Now when you do your material bending, don't try bend it inch at a time all over. You want to progressively bring this down. If you just try sort of start bending one end and get it right flat and then walk down, it does really bad things to your material. It's not okay. So when we start, we start on one end and we move down the material inch at a time, and then we move back the other way and just keep walking it down progressively. Now the other thing is, a lot of guys will just start trying to whack that straight down while they try to belt it into that one. You want to displace the material in the right direction, you want to encourage it to go in the right direction. So at an exaggeration here, I work in sweeping circles. Rather than hitting it straight down, I tend to glance blow, and what that does is it makes the material come down progressively. You can just belt it straight down there, but if you glance material and just keep in little circles, the best way I can describe it, your material will progress, and that's what you want. And that means that you're going to put an even stretch on the material as you form it. So enough talk, let's knock this one down, and I'm just going to go through the process. We'll probably go to time lapse so you can see I'll do this whole section, and then we'll get back to the air stretching on the other side. So let's get this done. Okay, so this is the part where we start to move the material through. You don't want to do this all in one bend. You don't want to get down there and get to their corners. You've got to bring this in progressively. So you're trying to encourage the material to stretch at the rate you can control it. So again, we'll use the dead blow to bring this down, sort of that 45-degree mark, and we'll start stretching this through. Now you're going to get curtaining or thumbnailing. That's where the material hasn't been forced to go back into itself at this stage. So it'll sort of wobble and wibble. That's okay, that is absolutely normal. But you want to try and get this nice straight bit down to sort of round about that 50% bend. And then we start bringing it out. We've got to do it in progressive stages. I can't express enough, if you try get it over the bend as quickly as you can and just walk it down there, eventually you're going to have a thumbnail or a curtaining effect that you have to rework. And if you spend just that nice pace and let the material come down at its own pace, there's less work at the other end. So can't express enough, don't be in a hurry to get this thing folded over, just let it work its own deal, let the metal do its own work. The metal will find its way, you just have to encourage it. If you try to force it, it will force back on you and you'll have more work to do. So it's the old adage, mate, less is more. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to start working this down. We're going to get it to radius around here. Then I'm going to spin the form and bring the other side up in the same section, and then we'll do a roll toss. So we're literally going to be rolling backwards and forwards to bring that material down. So I think that might be a time-lapse moment. So I'm going to put you in the time-lapse now. While I bring it down, I'll get it to a point where it's around 45 degrees. Then I'll come back to you and we'll show you how we're going to get this last bit done. Okay folks, we're at that point where we need to get the old planishing hammer out and start really forming around this corner. The sides are all pretty close. You know, that one's just about ready to final out, and the same as the other side. So we use a dead blow to bring the majority of the material around, which we have done. We see through here now we've got this is what we call the curtain, or in this case what a lot of metal guys call a thumbnail. This is like the shape of a thumb. This is the material trying to get out of the way itself. When you're trying to form steel to go around a radius, you have to shrink it into itself. Now that concept to some people is pretty hard to get their head around. And it was for me too. So I'd like to shout out to Carl Fisher from EP.8 Custom, because he explained it in such a way that I knew exactly what he was talking about. And what it is you have to consider steel more like putty and less like a hard object. So these thumbnails here literally is the material trying to get out of its own way as we try to form it around the radius. But we now have to encourage these high spots back into itself. So that's where the progressive planishing is going to come into. We're just going to need to keep working that material on the way out, and as soon as it brings a high spot, we need to work on that material to push it back into itself. Eventually what happens is you get this form, the radius, and the excess material gets pushed into itself and everything shrinks up into that shape, and you end up with that nice consistent radius that you need to form. It'll be a little bit ripply, but because we're going to weld and dress and finish it, no big thing. So I'm just going to put this bit on time lapse because this will take a little while and it's noisy as all buggery too. So I'm going to set it up nice and close so you can see what we're doing through here, and all you'll see is a planishing hammer, and hopefully you'll get to see the material just disappear in itself and you'll see that radius form. Once we get this one done, I'll do the other one. We don't need to do it twice, and then we'll get this whole thing finished off and we can pull it out the form and see what the final product looks like. Okay, so we've got all the primary fold work done. A little bit of a thumbnail right there I need to sort out. And there's a bit of a high spot back here I still need to planish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the panel out of the form. I'm going to unbolt it, get it out there. We're going to trim all this excess off through here. We don't need that at the moment. And that will just leave us these couple of little hand things, which we'll do with the good old-fashioned hand dolly and a planishing hammer. So we're going to do that next, get it all cleaned up. Once that's done, we can trim out the hole in the middle, tack it into the front end, and we can just see how it looks from there. So bear with me a couple of minutes while I just get this all out and trimmed up, and we'll pick it up when I've got the dolly in my hand. So we've got this one all nice and finished out. Got a few wobbly bits through here, so we're just going to use my old dolly, the old planishing hammer. We're just going to walk it around and just get it where it needs to be. So there it is, folks. We've got it out the mould, we've trimmed it up, we've dollied up the corners. They're looking pretty good now. A little bit of dress work on that one there, but we'll get it sorted out. By the time I tack it in and weld in the thing, you'll never see any of that. It's looking good. And just to point out that we use the packer material so that we wouldn't damage the bead relief that we've put in here, and it's done the job perfectly. You can see that bead relief is still well and truly proud. It's prominent. We've got a decent edge. You can actually see that sharp edge. So now we're going to cut the centre out. As we said, that's got to come out. Mark all that up, cut it out. That'll be just a little bit of quick time lapse while we do that. Just want to take a couple seconds of your time. We started this with a couple of pieces of form ply and a sheet of steel, handful of bolts, and now we have created a bespoke Jack Nelson Ballot radiator grill section from the ground up. This is the sort of stuff you can do yourself. Don't be put off by the complications, or you need to go to Hare and Forbes and buy that latest power hammer. You really don't. You can actually do this stuff. You just have to be mindful of what you want to achieve, what you want to create, and then go about it in the right processes. It can all be done in your shed. If you want to do that custom rat rod T-bucket that you've always talked about, this is the sort of process that will get you over the line. So there's a lot of really good tutorials out there on how to do this stuff. It's accessible to the guy or girl in the shed. If you a bit handy with your tools and you know how to use a hammer, you know how to use a drill, there's nothing stopping you from creating stuff like this in your own shed. So all I can say is, from Thommo's Tent Shed, have a go, have a crack, because it's really good fun and the end results just make you feel so good. And I'm going to shut up now, quit the philosophy and get on with the cut. Alright, so we're at that point we're actually going to do. It's all dressed up. It's all had its finishings done. We're literally ready to put it in. Now I've run around the outside of here, you can see around here, all the way around. That's a 1/4 inch that I marked on the inside, and that's our overlap. So we're going to put it on the inside, and we're going to walk it out until she fits up. That's what it is. Now we're going to tack top and center. Once we got that, then we can move this around and we can adjust as we go. We're going to put tacks every 4 inches. Then we can hammer dolly that, and then we can start looking at how that fits. But that's basically it. So let me just do this right now. We're going to time lapse. I'll just get this all tacked in, dressed up, and we can come back and have a look at just what it finished up like before we hit the welder. Raining here in the shed, but as you can see, we've got this girl all tacked up, ready to roll. What we got to do now is take our time, weld it in, dress it up. The Jack Nelson Ballot is ready to go. Well, that's it for another episode of Thommo's Tent Shed, and we have done a whole episode just on this radiator cowl support panel, but it was worth every minute of it. You got to see a lot of fabrication work, and look at it, it's turned out really good. I'm really pleased with it. It actually signatures the car now. We needed that nose cone section to profile Jack Nelson's Ballot. It was one of those things you needed. We now have it. We're done. Well, now we can start working backwards. There's a little bit of welding to finish off on the bonnet, a bit of dress work to get that done. But on the next episode, we're going to be dealing with creating 2 bomber seats. We're going to create a seat from the ground up, template it, roll the sheet out, tip edge, bead rolling, welding. We're going to make 2 seats from nothing. Then we're going to get onto the back panel. We need the rear panel to be finished out and finish that off. And then finally, when that's all done, we can put the side skins on and finish this body as complete. So that's what's going to happen on the next episode. It's going to be busy, but we really need to focus on finishing this body so we can get it off, get it into paint, and then what's left is the mechanicals. And there's plenty to do, But as that progresses, we're going to start final fitting things, and it's just going to become the car that we're going to see. So we've got a bit of a goal. We need to get this car to scrutineering as a daylight, even if it's a rolling car and not actually driving. We need to get this car to scrutineering so that we can have an initial inspection on it. So that's the goal. So we've got to keep pushing on. So hey, thanks for hanging around. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, hit like, subscribe, hit those notifications, and we'll see you on another episode of Thommo's Tin Shed. In the meantime, stay cool, stay safe. We'll see you next time.